Perhaps the biggest feature Elden Ring introduced into the Souls series was the addition of jumping. Well, I'm a 36-year-old man and new things scare me. That's why I'm going to find out the minimum amount of jumps needed to beat Elden Ring. Hello everyone, I'm lost. Let's establish some rules, shall we? Obviously, I'm not allowed to jump, whether that be on foot or horseback. Just to be safe, I have unbound the jump button. Rolling or walking off a cliff is okay, but I will not use any glitches, ashes of war, spells, incantations, or other items that lifts me off the ground. That would be cheating. I'm also not allowed to use the running horse dismount, as that definitely counts as a jump in my book. Our goal is to defeat the Elden Beast with the least amount of jumps possible. Preferably none. As normal, we start off in the Chapel of Anticipation. As I make my way to the boss, you should know that I will be doing this at rune level 200. This is less of a challenge run and more of a science run. I'm somewhat of a scientist, you see. Of course, first we have to deal with the boss. Yeah, not so tough in New Game Plus, are you, Francisco? His name is Francisco. First up, the Cave of Knowledge. While it isn't necessary to go through the tutorial area, consider my curiosity piqued. So even though this is a detour, I wonder, is it possible to beat the Elden Ring tutorial without jumping? No! Unfortunately, my progress was immediately thwarted by the presence of two small ledges. I managed to get by the first ledge by pushing myself in and up against a corner, but I wasn't able to repeat that trick on the second ledge. That made me somewhat upset, so when this guy looked at me wrong, I killed him and everyone else in the vicinity. Good thing this place isn't mandatory. Back on track, and we are headed towards Stormvale. But first, I gotta pick up the goat horse and the woman. Granted, the woman isn't strictly necessary, but I do believe in diversity, and I also love the way her feet. After beating the snot out of Morgoth, Omen's snot is surprisingly thick by the way, we are seemingly confronted by a choice. But this is a lie. In front of us there exists two paths, the cliffside path and the main gate. The cliffside is not an option. We can't even get to the first grace in this area without jumping, so the main gate it is. I do get my internal organs liquefied by an oversized ballista bolt, but eventually we do manage to make our way through the castle and into the royal courtyard, where we go face to face with Godric the Golden. He dies within seconds. Next, I decide to head to Rea Lucaria. This is where Torrent really pays off because there is a lot of water on the way, and I don't like getting my feet wet. Unless Melina is involved. Progressing through Hogwarts is not very hard. Quite frankly, I bulldoze my way through the entire university, making sure to break every single bone in every single mage I come across. I hate wizards. With a passion. Even when they are dogs, I show no mercy. Everything is going smooth, but once we reach the debate room courtyard, things start to become difficult. The intended path forward is for me to fall down to these stone supports, then jump up and over the railing. But since we can't jump, this is a no-go. There is actually a different path we could take, but unfortunately we are yet again foiled by the presence of a small railing. Right, look. This is where things start to become a bit complicated. Since we cannot reach Renala, the obvious next boss to kill is Radahn, so we head towards Castle Redmane. But unfortunately, the gate is closed. And when we try to get to the ladder on the backside, we are yet again faced with my nemesis, the small ledge. But if I've learned anything from the tutorial, it's that small corners can be abused. So, after I find such a corner, I simply ask Torrent to channel his inner Skyrim, and success. That doesn't last very long, unfortunately, since there are more ledges coming up, but no corners to match. So, that's a no-go. But we are not out of options yet. There is a teleport that could take us to the Rodan festival. Of course, it's currently shut off due to maintenance, and it won't turn back on until you reach Altus. But to reach Altus, we first need to acquire 2 halves of a medallion, and Christ. Look, the first one isn't too bad. It can easily be obtained in Fort Height. Just grab the medallion from this chest. The other one is located in Fort Farith. But, again, there is a problem. Normally, we reach the fort by traveling this way, but there is a slight gap in the path that is supposed to be jumped. I tried using the horse to pick up enough speed to simply run across. I tried that a few times. It didn't work. Then I tried asking the rot puppies for help. They were certainly willing, but their assistance only resulted in grave bodily harm. Given enough time and health insurance, I might have been able to get myself launched over to the other side, but I wanted to get this done today. Lucky for me, there exists an alternative. We can use the teleporter in East Limgrave that moves us to Malekith's doghouse. From there, it's a straight ride to Fort Farith, where we find the remaining half of the medallion. Then, after a quick visit to Altus, I'm finally allowed to start the festival. Then I proceed to murder Rodan. Without any aid, I might add. With 2 demigods dead and 2 great runes acquired, I am now allowed to enter Lell. Or at least I thought so. Turns out, before you're allowed inside, you have to talk to this creature. Look, it's nothing personal, darling. I just hate the elderly. As we enter Lell, I must admit, I am somewhat nervous. By large, the city shouldn't be too bad to navigate, even when jumpless. But there is one specific segment that I think might be cause for trouble. That would be this place. The Dragon Wing. In a normal run, you would simply jump your way up there, but with my knees firmly locked in place, I wonder if this is going to be where I would have to break my no-jumping streak in order to progress. Turns out you can just kinda walk along the side here. With the only real obstacle in Lell traversed, we get to run unmolested all the way to Godfrey, who admittedly is somewhat annoying to kill since I have been conditioned to jump a third of his attacks. But eventually, he does go down. And not long after that, we also get to murder the last king of Lell, Morgoth, the unwanted yet loyal son of Queen Marika. But there is no time for shenanigans. We have a symbol of hope and divinity to burn to the ground. That's why our next destination is the Mountaintop of Giants and the big forge thingy at its peak. In order to get there though, we have to go through the Forbidden Lands, where we yet again are presented with a problem. You see, there is a slight gap between these rocks with no way around it. Honestly, I'm starting to feel a tad self-conscious. I have murdered a warrior king and done battle with literal demigods, yet I'm still not able to conquer small ledges or gaps. But don't you worry, ladies and gentlemen, because all is not lost. I have a solution to a conundrum. We can make it past as long as we apply the right amount of horsepower. Torrent can still be summoned here, which allows us to simply gallop over the gap. Who's a good goat horse? It's you! Yes, it's you! We survived the Forbidden Lands, but it seems like this snowy area comes with a lot of tightly packed challenges. Next up is this bridge thing. I was doing this live and a fair amount of my viewers thought that this would be the place to finally force out my first jump. But again, thanks to Torrent's quickness, we were able to sprint across any potentially run-ending gaps and make it over to the other side. The next potential problem comes right after the fire giant. And oh, by the way, I killed the fire giant. In order to get to the forge, we have to traverse these chains, but they have a fairly complicated geometry, but we managed to get enough speed to run up and onto it. But we are stopped at the top. There is a small, statuesque looking thing blocking the way. It's just high enough to cause trouble. Yet again, the solution to our problem comes in the guise of our beloved goat horse. I swear I will get him so many treats. Then we partake in a slight bit of maiden flesh melting, which somehow teleports us to a place beyond space and time. Look, I don't ask the questions, I just go with the flow. There is a lot of interesting terrain in Fazula. A lot of floating platforms, which I thought would become problematic. But they didn't. We mostly just walked off ledges to progress. I was a little worried about the railing by the Crucible Knight, but it doesn't actually stop you from doing anything. From here, all we need to do to reach Malekith is sprint past all of these annoying birds and that damn dragon. Oh, that's a problem. Impeding our progress is another small ledge. I spent a solid amount of time here thinking of potential solutions, but I'm afraid there is none. I was hoping that one of the Warhawks would have some kind of attack that would lift me up and onto the ledge, but no dice. There is another path you can take in this area by rolling off this ledge, leading you to a hidden area with a Crucible Knight fighting some beastmen. But also here is a ledge that must be jumped. And even if you could proceed along this path, it simply takes you back to which you came from. This is the only mandatory jump in the game. There is no other way around it. We have to jump. Five minutes after this, we arrive at Malekith and begin the Elden Ring boss gauntlet. After some light-hearted animal abuse, we are transported to the Ashen Capital, where all the ash makes traversal a piece of cake. Oreo cake, to be specific. We beat 1, 2, 3, and 4 more bosses, and with that, we have officially beaten Elden Ring, with only one jump.